everyone, so I'm here today to do my wrap up for the month of March. So these are all of the books that I read in the month of March and what I thought of them and what I rated them on my Goodreads account. We'll just jump straight on in. The first book that I finished was a bind up of 3 Tennessee Williams plays, Sweet Bird of Youth, A Streetcar Named Desire, and The Glass Menagerie. 2 of those he's incredibly famous for. The third one, Sweet Bird of Youth, I don't know if many people know about, but I've never actually read a Tennessee Williams play, and I've actually never seen a full Tennessee Williams play on the stage in full, but I think everyone knows quotes from Streetcar Named Desire, like Stella and things like that. I finished this in the month of March and I thought it was okay. There's something interesting to note about Tennessee Williams is he grew up as a gay man in the South, and he writes a lot of very racist stories. But I mean, basically because he grew up in that kind of area, that kind of time period, but it can still be really difficult to read nowadays. I know a lot of people who love Tennessee Williams' work, but unfortunately I didn't love it that much and I rated it 2 out of 5 stars. Next, I picked up a little bit of a weird book. This is The Tiny Book of Tiny Stories 2 by Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Wirrow. So this is a little bind up, I guess, of illustrations and single sentences, or sometimes a group of sentences that tell very tiny stories. And this is the second edition of this collection. There's A Tiny Book of Tiny Stories, and this is the second one. I got this as a Christmas gift and I read it in the month of March. I really enjoyed it. I mean, it's just a really cute little book, and it's really interesting to see how much of a story you can tell in so little words. I rated this 4 out of 5 stars. Next, I picked up a real classic. This is Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro. This is best known, I think, because of the movie that came out a few years ago starring Keira Knightley, that blonde woman whose name I always forget, and Andrew Garfield. This follows the story of 3 different kids, though one of them is the main narrator, as they go to boarding school, grow up together, and then go off into the real world. The only twist is that these kids are donors, so they have been raised and bred, I guess, to be organ donors for normal humans around the world. So they live really sad lives, I guess, because they're never quite considered normal humans. It's a pretty heart-wrenching story. It's full of a lot of regret, a lot of nostalgia, and a lot of empathy. It's a very, very sad story, but it's a really beautiful one. It's written very, very well. The way Ishiguro reveals information through the narrator is very interesting, and the build-up in story is absolutely fantastic. I would highly recommend this, even if you've seen the movie. It's quite a different tone in the book from the movie that I found, so would highly recommend this. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Next, I finally picked up Saga Volume 2 by Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples. This is another bind-up of the Saga comics. This is the Volume 2 though. I picked it up finally because I got it for Christmas after I absolutely loved the first volume, and now I finally read the second one. Unfortunately, I was not nearly as blown away with this collection as I was with the first volume. The first volume just told the most interesting story. It gripped me from the very beginning and I loved it. This kind of felt like one of those in-betweens where the story hasn't quite gotten to the climax, and so we're just kind of trudging along and nothing quite happens. I mean, like, there's a bit that happens in this, but nothing really felt substantial, and I can definitely tell that the third one will probably have far more action in it than this one did. I will continue with the series because I am really enjoying it, and it's kind of fun to read a series in a graphic novel, which I don't usually do, so I will pick up the third one. I just was a little bit let down because I didn't enjoy this one as much as the first. Either way, I rated it 3 out of 5 stars. Then, on a completely different note, I picked up Religion for Atheists by Alain de Botton. Alain de Botton is a philosopher, I suppose you would call him, or a theorist of sorts. He's written lots of books on lots of different things, including love and sadness and I don't know, things like that. This is a book about how atheists, or people who do not believe in any sort of supernatural deity, can use the institutions and the teachings and the rituals of religion in their everyday lives. So basically it starts off by saying, like, religions are really important institutions, and they're things that we can gain a lot of good things from if you accept the fact that there's no such thing as supernatural beings. I found this really interesting because this is a topic I have a lot of interest in, the idea that people are fascinated by these rituals that we enforce onto each other and ourselves, and how we find a lot of safety and a lot of security and happiness in things like this. But what it really comes down to is our disagreement about whether or not there is a deity in the sky and how it manifests itself in the world in which we live. But I don't know, I found this really interesting. I really like recognizing the value in religions without having to say that, yeah, I believe in a god, because I don't. I find that ridiculous. But anyway, I really enjoyed this. I would recommend it to people, not because it's an all-encompassing account of how these things can be used in your everyday life, more just because it's quite a stimulating read and it gives you a lot of thoughts, and I just kind of like the way that it made me think of different things that I wouldn't have thought of before. Like, for example, the fact that if you don't believe in God, then things like the Bible and the Quran, a lot of them become irrelevant to you. But if you think of the Bible and the Quran and other scriptures as cultural teachings, then any novel can be a cultural teaching, and I just found that really interesting. Anyway, I really enjoyed this one and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. And then the last book that I finished in the month of March wasn't really a book. This is The Book of Hearts by Francesca Gavin. I picked this up at Mona in Tasmania, if you've ever heard of it. It's the Museum of Old and New Art, and it's basically like a picture book of all these different art pieces involving hearts. There's also a little bit of information about the history of heart symbolism throughout it as well. So the Valentine's Day heart, starting all the way back in like Egyptian times and ancient Greece. So that was really interesting to me because I find the heart symbol a really interesting one, and I really liked learning a little bit more about it, but also seeing a lot of different renditions of it. That being said, it is an art book and the text in it is not very good. There's lots of typos, there's lots of mistakes in it, but if you're buying it just for the art, it's quite a good read. So I gave this one 3 out of 5 stars. And then 2 books that I read in March but did not finish in March. The first is The Mooring of Starting Out by John Ashbery. This is a bind-up of his first 5 books of poetry. I think I started this back in January or February and I still haven't finished it. I haven't read all that much since my last update, but I'm chugging along. Hopefully I will finish it in April. I also picked up a collection of essays. This is On Literature by Umberto Eco. Umberto Eco is a novelist and theorist, general literary philosopher, and this is a collection of essays essays and speeches that he's given over his lifetime about literature, about style, about books that he loves, about authors he likes and does not like, things like that. It's pretty dry, but he's a really intelligent man, so it's keeping me going. I don't have all that much left, and I'm hoping that I can finish it today, actually. So there you go. Those are all of the books that I read or picked up in the month of March. Like I said in my last wrap up, I'm not really going to be doing any to be read videos right now, especially during the university semester, because I want to give myself a little bit of freedom to read whatever I want to read if it's not a university text. So I hope that's okay with you guys. When the semester's over, I'll probably go back to to be reads, but for now, I'm just not doing them. If you do booktube videos, please let me know and I'll come and check you out. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. Have a great day. Bye!